Filmed live in Canada, it's Jim's Record Party. Yes, it is. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome for the first time, viewers, to Jim's Record Party. I'm your host, James. It's so nice to have you with us. Today, you can see I'm holding this album. This album we're going to start off with is so fantastic. I can barely hang on to it. It's the Tony Bennett, Bill Evans album. To start our part one of jazz duos here on Jim's Record Party. Produced by Helen Keane, Bill Evans' producer and manager from 1963 until his passing in 1980. So she well knew Bill's good space, his comfort space, his creative space. This was done at Fantasy, I believe, in New York studios. Though I understand that this may have been on Mr. Bennett's bidding, that he was excited to work with Mr. Evans and that he initiated this project. I believe there is a volume 2. This is a stunning album, both men at the peak of their powers. Bill Evans, a great jazz impressionist, composer, melodist, harmonicist, very sophisticated player, very soulful, beautiful player. Mr. Bennett, we don't have to say anything more about him, do we? Tony Bennett, here really at the peak of his powers, a pop singer, singing some jazz tunes, singing some pop tunes. Let's run over a few. My Foolish Heart, Young and Foolish, but Beautiful. Waltz for Debbie, Bill Evans' signature, one of his signature tunes, perhaps his best known tune. Here, he gives it his best playing, I believe, that I've ever heard. His rendition here, his backing of Mr. Bennett's vocal on it is just superb. I'm going to be using a lot of superlatives today, ladies and gentlemen. These are the kinds of albums we're looking at. Duos, jazz duos. When in Rome, almost a signature tune of Mr. Bennett. It's very, very nicely done here. And a absolute world-class, universe-class reading of Days of Wine and Roses. Closes the album. When it finishes, your heart is in your mouth. It seems to finish so suddenly compared to some of the other tunes. It is the shortest tune on the album. It feels like it should be repeated, but they only play it through once, and it just leaves you with absolutely that feeling of melancholy, a slight regret, reminiscences of the days of wine and roses. They may not be wine and roses for you, they may be something else, but the feeling is universal, and here played and sang absolutely soulfully. Let's move on to our second album today, ladies and gentlemen, from two great Canadians. You know, we love to talk about our countrymen here on Jim's Record Party. It's Ed Bickert and Don Thompson. Ed Bickert was one of Canada's greatest, perhaps next to Lenny Breau. They're certainly compatriots, both from Manitoba, interestingly, while Don Thompson is from British Columbia, and they both migrated to Toronto, where they played most of their careers, I would say. Though this album, unusually, is recorded live, I believe in Spokane, Washington, at the Garden Party, which appears to be a lounge restaurant. And 1978 we're looking at here. Our previous album, the Tony Bennett Bill Evans album, recorded in 1975. We're in the 1970s for all four albums we'll be looking at today, ladies and gentlemen. Alone Together, A Face Like Yours, You Are Too Beautiful, What Is This Thing Called Love? This was a 1980 Juno, that's our Canadian, of course, Music Awards jazz winner. Produced by Don Thompson, the bass player himself. A duo I was so honored to see many, many times during the early 70s in Toronto when I was a young musician, making my bones, and saw these gentlemen with everyone from Mo Kaufman, Eugene Amaro, Russ Little, so many more. Don Thompson and Terry Clark, of course, on drums, compatriots, pretty much joined at the hips, I believe. They were a fantastic duo. And then occasionally would see Claude Ranger and Michel Donato would come in from Montreal and play. I believe I saw them with Lenny Breau originally. All of these gentlemen playing regularly at the George's Spaghetti House restaurant during the early 70s and probably later as well. This album from 78, as we say, January 78. Fantastic album in the guitar, bass, duo genre. You may want to dim the lights a bit for this one. And Ed Bickert, interestingly, of course, for his choice of a Fender Telecaster as a jazz guitar. And he plays it in this album. 1978, a little later than I saw him. He's playing with some verve here, and he grabs those strings every once in a while. This isn't just your smooth, completely smooth all the way through, oh, so mellow jazz, guitar, bass album. This has a little more grit to it. It's played in the lounge, as we say, the garden party, so it still fits into that genre wonderfully. You can turn the lights down a bit and cuddle up with somebody and listen to this, and it's fantastic. Let's move on to album number 3. Crystal Silence. You know the name, you know the album. This one's had a lot of plays, ladies and gentlemen. Crystal Silence. Gary Burton and Chick Corea. Duo album on ECM produced by the great Manfred Eicher. Such a beautiful sound on this, done in Oslo, I believe. Señor Mouse, Arise Her Eyes, I'm Your Pal, Desert Air, Crystal Silence, the eponymous tune. Falling Grace, Feelings and Things, Children's Song, and What Game Shall We Play Today? I'm reading them all off, as you can tell. The Steve Swallow tunes on this album are delicious, beautiful songs. What a fantastic songwriter Steve Swallow made, and what a fantastic bass player. But on top of that, such a lyrical, beautiful songwriter. Arise Her Eyes, I'm Your Pal, Falling Grace, just gorgeous, gorgeous songs. And then Chick rhymes in with his Señor Mouse. Desert Air, a tune was not familiar with, a fantastic tune. And again, the eponymous tune, Crystal Silence, is his. Both of these gentlemen, very important, of course, pioneers in the formation, the birth of fusion, of jazz rock. Gary Burton, a vibe player who pretty much pioneered the four-mallet style and just mind-boggling technique to be able to place those four mallets where he wants, whether he's playing very fast, intricate melodies, or harmonizing with Chick, or laying down 2 or 3 or 4 mallets at the same time to provide chordal backing and rhythmic backing while Chick takes off on a bit of a flight. Gary Burton is there 192% of the time. Chick Corea is so dynamic on this album. His Latin influence, of course, his classical influence, of course, very evident in his right hand attack. So evident, so beautiful, so very soulful and supportive of each other. This is a must-have album in your collection for listening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a must-have in your jazz collection. That brings us to our final selection here today on Jim's Record Party. An unexpected choice, Charlie Haden's second, I believe, duo album featuring Don Cherry, Archie Shepp, Hampton Hawes, and the great Ornette Coleman in the order that they appear. Each gentleman taking one tune, one pass, one duet with the great free and folky and jazz bass player. Yet there are not enough adjectives to describe Charlie Haden's playing and his viewpoint on music and life and politics, all interwoven. His playing, of course, in the early Ornette Coleman, the original Ornette Coleman quartet, and then his playing, not by any accident did Keith Jarrett call his name for his great quartet, his great acoustic American quartet. We've talked about them previously here on Jim's Record Party. Charlie Haden, such a great sound on his acoustic bass. 3 original tunes by Charlie Haden here, and then the Golden Number itself is a tune by Ornette Coleman that he plays on, that he plays trumpet on. I should say that Turnaround is the tune written by Ornette Coleman, played by Hampton Hawes and Charlie Haden in this case. Yeah, a lot going on here. Opens with Don Cherry. They've double-tracked this with basses and trumpet and flutes by Mr. Cherry. Moves on to, I think, my favorite Archie Shepp take that I've ever heard. Archie Shepp can be many things, a man of many colors and flavors, but here he is a beauteous player. As they duo for about 12 minutes on a Charlie Haden tune. I believe it's called Shepp's Way, Shepp's Tune, something like that, tribute to Archie Shepp. Side 2 opens with Hampton Hawes, late great piano player, so underrated, so unknown. And here they do play Turnaround, the Ornette Coleman tune. Very nice, very sweet take on this, yes. Concludes with a long take with Ornette Coleman, the master, really the man that brought all these men together, brought their musical consciousness to a certain place and took it beyond. But here Ornette plays trumpet unusually. Of course, a multi-instrumentalist. We know he does play violin. Famous, I believe they're live albums recorded in Copenhagen with the trio. And here he plays trumpet, which, truthfully, I am disappointed with. I do certainly prefer his alto playing. If I want to hear Ornette Coleman, I want to hear him on his number 1 instrument, and that's his alto. He is a more than wonderful trumpet player and acquits himself wonderfully here. But we've already heard Don Cherry open the album. The preeminent, free trumpet player of the late 20th century? Yes. In fact, in the inside gatefold sleeve, where the participants are pictured, not Mr. Haden himself, he only appears on the cover here, Ornette is pictured with his alto sax, but he in fact plays trumpet on the tune that they play, the duet with Mr. Haden, the Golden Number. A beautiful album, ladies and gentlemen, filled with 4 great duets of 4 of the leading lights of the late 20th century: Don Cherry, Archie Shepp, Hampton Hawes, Ornette Coleman, and of course the reason they all got together, the man himself on bass, Charlie Haden. Well, that brings us to the end of another side of Jim's Record Party, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for joining us again. And join us again next time. We'll do it again the same time, the same station, next week. We'll do part 2 of Jazz Duos. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It's been so nice to have you with us. We'll see you next week here on Jim's Record Party.